What is love? I mean, really, what is it? It's a question that has been echoing through human history for millennia. So in this explainer, we're going to trace that echo all the way back and explore how some of the greatest poets, philosophers, and thinkers have tried to pin down the most powerful human emotion of all.
It's a question we've all asked ourselves at some point, right? So where do you even begin to look for an answer?
Well, our search begins at the very beginning, with the oldest stories humanity ever bothered to write down. These are our first attempts to put words to this massive, overwhelming feeling.
Okay, our first stop is the ancient world, and here we find love being talked about not just as romance, but as this elemental force of nature.
You know, the oldest story we have, the Epic of Gilgamesh, isn't what you'd call a typical love story. It's actually all about the deep, life-changing bond between two men. The love between Gilgamesh and Enkidu is so powerful that when Enkidu dies, it doesn't just grieve Gilgamesh, it absolutely shatters his reality and kicks off his entire epic quest.
Now, let's jump over to ancient Greece. We meet the poet Sappho, who Plato himself called the 10th muse. And her idea of love? It was revolutionary. She basically says that beauty isn't some objective thing out there in the world. It's not in armies or in fleets of ships. Nope. For her, the most beautiful thing in the world is simply whatever you love. It's the lover who creates the value.
And then in the Hebrew Bible, you find the Song of Songs. And wow, it's a different kind of intensity altogether. It's this dialogue between lovers that is surprisingly erotic, and it just perfectly captures this dual nature of love, this deep, unquenchable yearning that's both totally physical and deeply spiritual at the same time.
So, we've gone from these raw, gut-level feelings. Now, let's shift gears to a time when thinkers tried to pull love apart, to analyze it, to categorize it, and to really understand how it works.
Have you ever wondered where that whole idea of a soulmate or finding your other half comes from? It comes from right here. In Plato's Symposium, the character Aristophanes tells this incredible myth about how humans were once these double creatures, and the gods, fearing our power, split us in two. And ever since, we've been doomed to wander the earth, searching for that missing piece to make us whole again.
It's such a romantic idea, isn't it? But Plato doesn't stop there. Through the voice of Socrates, he challenges that very notion, offering a much bigger and frankly much more difficult vision of what love could be.
And this is it, the ladder of love. For Plato, love starts with the physical, right? An attraction to one beautiful body. But that's just the first rung. He argues that true love is a journey upward. You go from one body to all beautiful bodies, then you start to appreciate the beauty of a person's soul, then the beauty of ideas and systems, until you reach the very top, a love for beauty itself. It's a journey from the very personal to the totally universal. So if Plato's idea of love is this grand, spiritual quest, the Roman poet Ovid comes along and just yanks it right back down to earth. For Ovid, love is basically a hunt. His book, The Art of Love, is this hilarious, satirical how-to guide with super practical tips on everything from personal hygiene to making sure everyone's having a good time. The next major evolution in how we understand love doesn't come from poets or philosophers. It comes from theology.
This little phrase right here, it sounds so simple, but theologically, it was absolutely radical. Christianity put love at the very center of its worldview in a way no other major religion had. The idea isn't just that God is a loving being, but that the very essence of God is love. And that, well, that changes everything.
Fast forward to the 19th century, and you get the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard, who breaks love down into three distinct forms. First, you've got eros, that's romantic, erotic desire. Then there's philia, that's the love of friendship, of brotherhood. And then there's agape. This is a divine, unconditional love for all humanity, which, for him, was the highest form of love there is.
But here's the crucial part. You can't reason your way into agape. It's not logical. It requires what Kierkegaard famously called a leap of faith, a commitment that just goes beyond all human reason into a realm of pure, unconditional devotion.
Okay, so how did we get from all these ancient philosophical and theological ideas to our modern kind of Hollywood version of love? This next part is all about the great synthesis, and maybe the great complication of all these concepts.
So to understand our modern template for love, we have to look back at one more key ingredient from the Middle Ages: courtly love.
And what's wild about this is that this super intense, passionate, all-consuming love was specifically not for your spouse. It was a secret, ritualized, and very often adulterous affair that existed completely outside of marriage.
And then, along came the Romantics. They basically took all of these separate ideas, Plato's other half, the wild passion of courtly love, the absolute devotion of Christian agape, and they just smushed them all together. They created this brand new template, one we're all still living with. That one person, your soulmate, is supposed to fulfill every single one of your needs, sexual, emotional, and spiritual, and complete you and end your loneliness forever. No pressure, right?
But modern philosophy has started to push back against this impossibly heavy romantic ideal. It's starting to offer us a new and maybe healthier way to think about what it means to love.
The philosopher Jacques Lacan, for example, saw love as this sudden event, like a curtain being pulled back. For him, love is deeply, deeply tied to language. This quote suggests that real intimacy happens when our words meet, when we rub our language against another's, creating this connection that trembles with desire.
And this brings us to a really profound reframing from the philosopher Alain Badiou. He says, look, love isn't about finding your missing piece. It's not about two people melting into one. Instead, love is the constant, day in, day out practice of seeing the entire world from a new shared perspective, the view from two. It's about building a new world together, not in spite of your differences, but because of them.
So, after this whole journey, where have we landed? What is love? Well, maybe the answer is that love isn't one single thing. I love how the writer Diane Ackerman describes it. She calls it the white light of emotion, a single beam that, when you look closely, actually contains an entire spectrum of feelings: desire, friendship, devotion, and that shared vision of the world.
And perhaps the most beautiful way to imagine this is through one final, powerful metaphor, a poem that sees two lovers as maps, each one bringing their entire world, their whole history, their personal geography to the relationship.
And in that meeting, a new map is drawn. A brand new, shared world is born from two separate ones. It's not a merger that erases who you are, but a new nation built on the foundation of two unique places, now united. And maybe that, in the end, is the real art of loving.